What's up, y'all? It's 10 at 3 time in Tennessee. How are you? Hope you're well. Hope everything in your life is going great here on this Wednesday, January the 28th, 2026. Another cold day, a little warmer than it has been, but still not what I would consider appropriate weather.
Well,
but it is gorgeous.
The snowcaps in Gatlinburg, you're looking at them right now. They're they're not quite as prominent today. I think
they're not.
Warmed up a little bit enough to, see that turn back to kind of that winter brown.
Could return a little bit this weekend, though.
This
would have been, now if we had timed this out better and were smarter, if I was a smarter person, I would have had lovely Julia Quady on with us today instead of yesterday.
Right?
We could have talked
all about.
We could have talked about, hey, what's going on? This because this is what I've talked about before, right? Some of the models are different because it's a little far north, but when that weather comes east to west, especially now southeast to northwest, when it goes that way, we almost always get hit here in Knoxville or East Tennessee. But when it comes from the west, what's weird, when it goes west to east, I'm almost never. I always. Now, you have to prepare because it could be the worst. But to me, living here long enough, I've been like, if it's coming west to east, I'm guessing I'll prepare for the worst, but I'm guessing it's going to be on the low end of whatever is expected because that's what it seems to be most of the time because that's where it seems to go. Now, I'm sure if Todd or Julie are watching or listening to this right now, they're probably, or Cassie or any of them, they're probably losing their minds saying, stop it.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
Meteorologically, that is not correct.
Yes, vibes-based is what it feels like to me living here for a while. But this is a storm coming in from the other ocean.
Yeah, this is a rare one. You don't get these too often. You don't get, especially for winter storms. North. You don't get a winter storm coming in from our east out of the ocean.
Yeah.
But, the real bad ones, and this is from talking with Todd and Julian.
Inside information?
Cassie, yes. You ever heard the term Southern Slider?
No, it sounds like a burger.
It sounds like a burger or maybe like a baseball term or something like that, right? No, it's a Southern Slider is the systems that come out of the Gulf.
Okay.
And those are the ones that always just slam us.
They seem to get into it's like if you like the marble run games that like my son plays where you put the the marble in there and it kind of rolls through like the set or whatever and it's going where it's going. It's like when those things happen, it feels like East Tennessee is like the destination for the marble there. Like no matter which way it turns, it's going there.
Yeah, but as I explained it, it's like those are rare because it has to be like the perfect condition, right? You have to have that very cold air coming in from the north, the Arctic, on top of the wet condensation coming from the south, which is, I think, now this is where I'm not going to get it right, but it depends on La Nina and El Nino years, which one of those you're going to see.
That will always remind me of the Chris Farley skit. The El Nino will always. I am El
Spanish
Nino.
for
all other tropical storms bow before El Nino. Yo soy El Nino.
It's a great,
all of it.
Great skit.
Oh yes, one of the absolute. One of my God. Rest in peace. The good sometimes go way too young, but it's. I say that because it's going to be. It looks like, and I read this yesterday, that for the next 10 days or something, the coldest place on Earth relative to normal for this time of year is the eastern United States.
Yeah, we've seen that before. Knoxville, at one point in time, a few years back, maybe it was like a decade ago at this point, was the coldest place on Earth, beating out
this morning it was
Antarctica.
It was either this morning or yesterday morning. It was colder in Florida than it was in Anchorage, Alaska.
Weather is wild sometimes.
It's wild.
It can do some wild things.
And what's funny is also because we're speaking of weather, we talked to Julia yesterday. Go back and watch that episode if you want. Yesterday, we had the whole sports crew.
That's one for the history books, right? That's a classic episode.
We went
Very
into
unhinged.
office pranks. We went into to retribution and punishment and HR and elves and all sorts of fun stuff.
I don't even know how to sum that episode up, to be honest with you.
It took a turn. And I promised at the very beginning that we will have episodes that will absolutely do that. When you don't have a script, you just go for an hour, and I've done this for 2 hours, for 3 hours. You just see where it goes. Some days you kind of got to loose things. Some days you got to, okay, there's a lot going on, so we got to be tight about getting this stuff in. But then there's other days where it's just kind of a free-for-all. And yesterday was such a free-for-all that I had, if you see this here, a lot of notes for yesterday's show, and a lot of them. Let's see if I can get them there. There we go.
Pointed to that camera over there. There you go.
So
That's the one.
Had a lot of them, and I did not even need to do one today because yesterday we hardly got to any of it. So, but that stuff is still pertinent today because we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. The new news this morning. This afternoon. There are a couple of new things out there today. First off, keep it local, stupid, right? At the beginning, Janiah Barker, Lady Vols senior, who I think could be a first-round pick in the WNBA draft. She missed the Lady Vols win over Kentucky. She will be back per Kim Caldwell. I believe Emily Ray Cochran was over there talking to Kim this morning, and Kim said that early this afternoon, and Kim said that it looks like Janiah Barker should be back for the game on Thursday. That's a big one. Of course, when you average 14.3 points, 6.9 rebounds, nice, 1.3 assists, 1.2 steals, and 1.1 block shots per game, you're a pretty good player. And very versatile player, super important to what Tennessee does. Got the win without her the other day. Kind of an ugly win, but they got it done. Big win. There's no ugly wins in the SEC, especially two ranked teams are playing, especially a rivalry game. Big win over Kentucky. But they got it's coming hot and heavy for the Lady Vols in the next couple of weeks. Let me tell you, there are some games coming up for them. Big ones, like 2 weekends in a row, UConn, South Carolina, just, boom, boom. And that's,
the gauntlet is upon them.
We're going to learn really quickly. They're undefeated in league play. They've done some good things. She's revamped that roster. Got a couple nice portal pieces, some really dynamic-looking freshmen. And when they click, when they got it going, they look good. The Paldo is, for young players, doing a lot of really good things there on the ball. They got a lot of good things going on right now. So there was an update there. And on the Charles Bediako front, there's news there, and it's not surprising news. I would imagine should not be considered that anyway. But the judge in that case has indeed recused himself. Now, he still offered the initial TRO, right? And then he still extended it for a week when the judge or one of the legal representatives, if I could use my words correctly, ironically from Tennessee, could not make it down because of the weather, so they extended that TRO until they can get the hearing done sometime, I think, next week. But the NCAA filed a motion for recusal, and Bediako's attorney said they did not see anything improper about the judge's standing as an Alabama donor and on-campus, occasionally paid speaker. They did not think he would be conflicted in any way, but they weren't going to fight the recusal, but they didn't think it was necessary now. And why would they, right? They're like, hey, we got one dub with this guy. We feel pretty good about this. Let's keep this going. Let's roll this again. Let's go Snake Eyes again. But that will not be the case. We'll see who that gets assigned to. We'll see how that thing turns. As of now, though, Bediako is still eligible to play, and as you can see by Tom's hat over there, he would not have been happy with the game last night where his alma mater, the old Mizzou Tigers, went to once Tuscaloosa and wore one right in the bad place. They got run out of the gym, and Mizzou's had some good wins.
Yeah, that was such a disappointing loss given how things have been going.
Dennis Gates is one of those guys that I've just always liked.
Telling you,
I've always liked Dennis Gates. I think he's a good coach, and that's not an impossible job. They've had tradition there. They desperately, I think, need a new arena, just desperately. But they've had some funding issues here and there at times, and now obviously they're putting the NIL push. That's where a lot of the stuff's going in the new football building, which is nice. And that's your breadwinner, even though Mizzou's traditionally thought of as probably more of a basketball school, but football is the breadwinner.
That's the thing. It used to be thought of as the basketball school, and then right around the time to join the SEC, we're a football school now because
you see
Harry
that money
and
you see those checks coming in. And you're like, that looks pretty good.
In the last maybe decade, I'd say we're like maybe we want to be a basketball school.
It's although Eli Drinkwitz is. Interesting guy.
He is.
Interesting guy. Can be supremely annoying. No doubt he's a good football coach. I've always liked Gates, and I think he does a really good job. Now, they've kind of run hot and cold, but my point there was they had, over the weekend, one of the most exciting wins I've seen all season in all of college basketball when they hosted Oklahoma, and they hit a three-pointer at the end of regulation to force overtime. That was a deep three-pointer. Oklahoma should have fouled, didn't. They go in there, they hit the three. Oklahoma did a dum-dum. Mizzou took advantage, made a big shot, took it to overtime. And then in overtime, Mizzou was trailing and hit another three at the buzzer to win it in overtime. One of the best games I've seen all year in any sport. And they've had an interesting combination of tough performances and really good ones this season, like everybody else in the SEC has, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
fair. But they went there last night to Tuscaloosa, and they wore one on the chin. Bediako, I think, had 14 and 6, I believe was what he had, 5 of 6 shooting from the floor. And I tell you, with Reitzel back making shots for Bama, you get Allen back in there. They get, obviously everybody knows how good LeBaron Philon is. They get some of these guys back at the same time. I still think there are tiers in this league if everybody is at their best. And Tennessee, I can't figure out yet. Tennessee, I don't know if they're not in the third tier, but are they in the second tier, or could they be in that first tier? I actually think they could be in that first tier, but they haven't proven it yet, so let's see it. But you would bank on what they've done the past decade. There's a chance that they can get up there and get that done. But I still think Florida and Bama, if they play their best, and I'm saying Bama with Bediako in there. If Bediako's in there with Bama, and if those guys get healthy, then I think Bama and Florida are going to be pretty hard to beat. Now, you can beat them, but if they play their best, it's going to be hard for you to beat them. And so now the question is, where does everybody else fit in there? I want to see A&M buckyball, McMillan. They're so fun to watch, leading the league standings right now. I want to see when their schedule gets a little tougher how they do. I want to see with, Vandy, which absolutely just
let's say another game that just
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky.
Because Vandy started out hot. Now they hadn't lost a game, had a couple good wins in there, but not a great schedule, not a bad one, and big wins, and then had a couple games where they lost, and you wonder, okay, is this kind of water finding its level, or is this just a little rut? And then Kentucky had won 5 in a row, still not played great, was very fortunate to win in Knoxville, but still playing better. And then last night just got
just like Mizzou,
wrecked.
25-point game.
Got wrecked. Awful. I mean, I was kind of sitting in at the office, finishing up some stuff, working on some of those vertical videos everybody loves and getting some of that stuff ready.
Once again, we call them verts over here.
Verts, and was working on the verts, and I was kind of looking forward to having that game on in the background, and then I was like, oof, you going to get back in this, Kentucky?
Yeah, but looking forward to it. And then
even at halftime, I was thinking, Kentucky's come back in 1 week at LSU and at Tennessee, more impressively, came back from gigantic deficits in the second half to win those games at the Horn. So I was like, okay, I'm not giving up on this game yet. And then about midway through the second, I was like, yeah, this is done.
Yeah.
And the Kentucky fans not happy.
I would imagine not happy, given their expectations.
But
a lot higher than Mizzou's. For sure.
I mean they've got. Yeah. You never know these things for sure because they're not put on paper, and in places like Vandy, they would never have to be.
Yeah.
But like the salary, you don't. But there are certainly reports out there that Kentucky's got the most expensive roster in the country, the one assembled, and so. When those things happen, you are going to expect results, right? And this league standings right now, I mean, Arkansas is up there too. Are they? I kind of still think of them as – I kind of have them there with Tennessee as maybe bottom of Tier 1, top of Tier 2. But we'll see. Acuff is a special player.
Contenders.
Cal's got some players.
Got some contenders.
And Vandy's kind of there too. But there's some – Auburn I can't quite figure out. This league is wild. And in the second segment here, I'll give you some of these bracketology updates from the SEC because they're nuts, man. Like they're nuts. Like this league is such an interesting combination of if the tournament started today, the SEC would have like 10 schools that it would not shock you if any of them went to the Final Four. But
does that feel really bizarre?
But you probably wouldn't bet on any of them getting to the Final Four because you have a hard time individually. If you were to look at them, not collectively, but each, like, don't look at the forest, look at the trees. None of those trees do you really feel like you can trust. So if you were to sit there and say, do I want to bet on this tree? No. Do I want to bet on this tree? No. This tree? No. Go down the list. But if you say, do I want to bet on the forest? Maybe. Maybe. Because I don't know if they would have a couple of top 4 seeds, maybe, but a whole lot of 5 to 9 seeds and just wild. And like a lot of teams that you would not feel comfortable playing. But if you were a really bad team or one of the low major teams, mid-major teams, you might not be unhappy if you saw them because you're like, you know what? If these guys are having a bad day, I got a chance. And that's – it always gets sorted in the wash, right? Like it always gets – I say this a lot. Water usually finds its level. Not always, but water usually finds its level. And the NCAA basketball tournament, in my opinion, more often than not, the best team in the thing doesn't always win it. Because it's just who's hot at the right time. Now, it's got to be a pretty good team. But what you would consider the best team might run into a bad matchup, might have a game where it just can't make shots. The three-pointer's a great equalizer. Weird things happen. Now, I do think the past couple of years, the 2 best teams have played for the title, which is good. So maybe that trend is starting to change a little bit in this era. But I've never looked at it as this is the best team necessarily. It's just who's the best when they need to be. And that's why people that have been frustrated about this Tennessee team, I've said, just wait. And people the past couple of years, when they were so excited about these Tennessee teams, I said, that's cool, but also just wait. Just wait. See where they're playing in March, see where they're in February, see what they're building to. The better you play in the season, in theory, the better bracket you give yourself, right? So you should make the little closer geographically, a little, but I mean, Auburn got to a Final Four despite getting one of the most ridiculously tough draws I've ever seen and still got through it and got to the Final Four. So it just play your best at the right time. But the positioning right now for these SEC teams is madness. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. We'll also, before we get out of here today, going to spend a fair amount of time, even though it'll age quickly because the game is tonight, the Tennessee-Georgia matchup tonight in Athens is so fascinating for a couple of reasons that I'll discuss. When you kind of look at this, and if you're a believer like I am in styles making fights, it's just a fun one, kind of like A&M was in a way, but maybe even a little bit better in that term because it's on the road. So we got that to discuss. We got some. We might touch on the Bill Belichick thing if we have time. We might keep that to secret time. I don't know. We'll have some thoughts on that at some point, I imagine. But there's a lot of college basketball to discuss, a lot of SEC basketball to discuss, a lot of Tennessee basketball to discuss, and we're going to do all that discussing here in just a couple minutes. Be right back here on 10 at 3.
All right.
Secret time.
Secret time.
My mouth is dry today, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, the weather out there is just kind of bitterly cold and dry to begin with.
It's just like no matter how much water I drink, it's just. And it's not like, because when you're sick that happens, but I'm not sick. I'm just tired, but I'm not especially tired, more so than anyone else would be with a toddler at the house and a pregnant wife. Like, you're just tired all the time, but not like, it's not like especially that. So I don't feel bad. I just having one of those days where no matter how much liquid I'm consuming, I just can't.
Exactly.
And when you got to talk uninterrupted for the most part for a while, it's a little concerning. Now, again, would I rather be doing this than like working outside on a roof in this? Yes. So I'm counting my lucky stars.
How about a flight line? Would you like to work out in the flight line in the bitter cold of South Dakota in the mid of winter?
Absolutely would not.
At least you got these nice warm coveralls and you got these heater cards out there.
I tell you,
sometimes it's okay.
One of my favorite people.
Sometimes it's not.
One of the best coworkers I've ever had, Grant Ramey, still works over there at On3. He used to throw bags at the airport when he was younger.
Yeah.
And in the cold weather. And that just sounded so miserable.
Sometimes miserable, yeah.
I like being outside. I like working
conditions.
outside. Like I grew up, on a farm. Like I understand this. I like being outside and working. Not when it's cold.
30 seconds, by the way.
Not when it's cold. This is not fit for human habitation, this nonsense
I know
here.
you
This
don't
is
like the cold.
nonsense weather.
But you can always put on more layers.
I think you can always drink more water,
That too.
as I'm doing right now. And you can also get a lozenge that's supposed to keep your mouth from being dry.
That's actually probably helpful.
Welcome back to 10 at 3. Hope you're having a good day here on this Wednesday, January the 28th, 2026. Wes Rucker and Lord of the Streams, Tom Barclay in here talking.
Welcome back.
Sports.
Which a lot. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with this basketball season. I'm telling you,
a lot.
There's just so much.
There is
so many different storylines to even
Yes.
cover here. Not just like the literal games, but all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and that's adding to it with the thing at Baylor, obviously the Bediako situation at Alabama. And right now, I think both Joe Lunardi at ESPN and my old colleague Jerry Palm at CBS, I think they both have 10 SEC teams in the field right now. Like if the NCAA tournament started today, there would be 10 teams in there, and that's not including Mizzou, unfortunately, which right now for Lunardi is one of the next 4 teams out. So
Yeah, for sure.
So not quite first 4 out, but right behind that. And honestly, when you're there, a couple of wins and you're usually in. That's how close that is this day and age. So there's a couple teams below them there that's still technically good in the field. There's very few teams in this SEC right now that I would say just they're going to need to win the division to kind of get in there. One of them, Oklahoma, another one LSU, and probably Miss State, and maybe South Carolina could be in that line too. So there's definitely kind of a group there that's kind of been lapped, but not that they could maybe rally and get back in it, but they're staring down the barrel, probably needing to win.
Yeah, I mean, if South
a bunch
Carolina
of games
wants
in the
to get
tournament and
into
get in
it, it's
there.
going to be at Mizzou's detriment because they'll be playing here soon.
Yep, and so this is what it comes down to right now. But what's interesting about that is normally when you have a team with that many teams in the field, you're talking about a team that almost guaranteed to have a number 1 seed, almost guaranteed to have a number 2 and a number 3 and a number 4 in these different regions, right? And right now, at least in Joey brackets over there, Joey Lunardi, he does not have a single team higher than a number 4 seed from the SEC. So you've got like 10, 11 teams in the field, no top 3 seeds, which is wild. Because but when you watch the games, it makes sense. Because do I think eventually the SEC will have a top 2 or top 3 seed? Yes, I do. Cream usually rises, right? Somebody's going to get hot and kind of establish themselves up toward there, and Tennessee could be one of those teams. But right now, Lunardi's got Florida and Vandy as 4 seeds, Bama and Arkansas as 5 seeds, Tennessee as 6 seed, Kentucky and Auburn 7 seeds, A&M an 8 seed, Texas an 11 seed, and Mizzou
Pretty
next
wild
team out.
at A&M call actually though, right?
They haven't really played anybody.
Exactly. The schedule hasn't been.
I mean, they
tough,
are.
but,
What's their record? It's very good. I mean, they're
16 and 4.
They're 16 and 4, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're right there.
12 and 1 home,
and 6 and
3
1
win streak.
6 and 1 in the league, and then let's see the midweek schedule. I think A&M did. This is their midweek bye, like last week's was Tennessee's. So tonight's slate is Tennessee and Georgia, which Tennessee not ranked, although I think probably should be. Tennessee's in the top 20. Tennessee's in the top 20 in the nets and the Ken Palms and all that, but the pollsters have seen fit to do otherwise, so Tennessee's the first team out. But Tennessee at Georgia tonight, Mississippi State at LSU. One of those teams desperately needs to win to get going. And a couple more interesting games. Texas at Auburn. That's an interesting one because Auburn, of course, to me, had the result of the weekend. I mean, I think – that's not to throw any kind of shade at Tennessee because I think it had probably the second best performance of the weekend because going down there, Bediako's return, beating at Bama. Now, if Bama had those two starting guards out there too, then I would have said it's the best win of the weekend. But Auburn, which has kind of been Stephen Pearl's first year, kind of floating up and down, tough schedule, some nice wins, some bad losses, went down to Gainesville and beat Florida, which I just did not see that coming. Is how the GIF would say. I did not see that coming.
Once again, you've mentioned it. It's not an easy task for anybody to overcome Florida in its home turf.
You go down there in that chlorine pond, and it's
with the iguanas falling out of the trees right now.
Basically, right? I mean, it's one of the only arenas. I'm sure there's some others, because there's a lot of places around the country, smaller schools where the basketball gym and the swimming pool might be in the same kind of building or whatever. Mm-hmm. But at a big level like that, it's just weird to go into like an SEC arena and smell chlorine. It's just not something that and it's also really humid and sticky in there because of that. I remember Bruce Pearl with his light suits always sweating through them. So that's a big one. And then speaking of those Florida Gators, who can look like the best team in college basketball and then can look like what's going on with y'all. They go to South Carolina tonight at 9 o'clock, and Florida is a 13.5-point favorite. And I would imagine that an angry Florida team after that game over the weekend could go down there and give those Gamecocks the business. But you go to that arena, Colonial Life, at night, weird things can happen. I've seen Tennessee get upset there. I've also seen Tennessee play really well there. But the big game tonight for Tennessee is at Georgia. And another place where Tennessee has won, I believe, the past 5 games maybe that it's had against Georgia. I should have that off the top of my head, but that seems about right. But there for a while, I've also seen a lot of games where Tennessee's gone down there and not played well. And it's kind of interesting because you could say the same about Coleman Coliseum. For a long time, Tennessee just rarely played well there. In fact, Tennessee would usually play, in a lot of years, would play better at Rupp than it would at Coleman. I don't know why. Just one of those things. There might be an underlying reason for that. There might not be. It's just sports are weird, right? There's a lot of parity, and that's where things are. But Pearl teams, Barnes teams, the angriest I've ever seen Rick Barnes is down in Coleman Coliseum. That's the angriest I've ever seen that guy. And I was at a referee after the game, but that was a special kind of angry that the Reverend was that night. That was a rough one. But this league right now, things could change so drastically week to week for a while because a lot of these teams have put themselves, if not in the same pot necessarily, they've put themselves in, they're in the same neighborhood. They may not be the same street, but they're in the same neighborhood. They're definitely in the same zip code. Absolutely in the same town. They are close enough where a bad week could knock them down a division, basically, and a good week could bump them up a division. And there's kind of 2 or 3 separate layers there of those teams, and they're kind of bunched together. You can see it as you map it out. But imagine, like, for instance, Tennessee this week. This week, Tennessee goes down to Georgia tonight, hosts Auburn on Saturday. Tennessee wins both of those games. You're looking at a bracketology that maybe says, hey, is this a top 5 seed again? Is this, is this almost close to a top 4 seed again? Because metrically, Tennessee wins both those games, could be closer to the top 16 than could be closer to 16 than 20 in the Ken Palm and the Torvik and the Evan Meyer rankings and all that, and the net rankings and all that. So, and then the next week though, go stumble, and you're back down to where you were, or go 0-2 this week, and you're sitting there like an 8 seed, right? Like right. This is how it's going to be. I can't say this certainly, but it feels like this is what it's going to be like for a majority of the season, where this league just is going to have a hard time sorting itself out. Eventually, you would think there would be a 1 or 2 team breakaway toward the top, but it doesn't always happen that way. But I guarantee you, going into the final week, there's going to be some big games at play for seeding in the SEC tournament in terms of where people finish. And that can matter because that can affect where you're seeded for the NCAA tournament. All that matters really is getting to March. That's number one. Just get to March. Get to the only tournament people care about. Get a ticket to the dance. After that, just be as healthy as you can and be the best version of yourself you can and take your chances. You can't always control. There's some years where there's just not a lot of games close to you, or somebody's going to have a fan base that's closer to that game than you, or just there's variables in there that can change all the time, right? Sometimes, the East Regional Final or the South might be in Atlanta or Charlotte, and sometimes it might be in Houston or Dallas, right? Or New Orleans.
The definition of South has
Miami.
Changed quite a bit,
right?
Over the past decade.
No question. and so you can always bet that there is always a site somewhere in the Carolinas for the first 2 weeks, because they do their darndest every year to make sure that Duke or Carolina gets the shortest travel possible.
North Carolina
right?
gets their pick of the litter.
And you see a Kansas City or Oklahoma City or Dallas or something for Kansas to get to, right? Or St. Louis, somewhere for Kansas to get to. We see your tricks. We know your tricks. We know your tricks. We know how this goes, right? That's how, and usually Louisville or Cincinnati or somewhere that UK can get to if possible, right? Like, we know how this game goes. And so, but there might be a case where, you're the number 1 seed, but that means you got to go out west because all the other good teams are in the East and they're a little better than you. So would you rather be a 2 in the South, or would you rather be a 1 in the West? Or would you rather be a 3, or 2 in the West, or a 3 in the South or East? Like that's how fine the margins are. So yes, the better you play during the season, in theory, the better chance you give yourself. But of course, there's also those chances where you would probably rather be the 2 in the South than the 1 in the West.
Yeah,
because you can have more fans there,
exactly.
and that's so. There are variables in this thing, right? And also, we've seen this before. There can be a game, you get into one of these big arenas, a number 16 or 15 or 14 seed shoots out of its mind. It can't stop making threes. It's their moment. It's their one shining moment. And you're having a day where you cannot hit the broadside of a barn, because that's basketball. And so you try to build a team that can overcome that. You try to build a team that can win a lot of different ways. You want to have an identity. You want to have a preferred path. But you have to be able to win a couple different ways, usually, or just be miles better than everybody else if you want to get farther in the tournament. Usually how it goes, because every champion almost always has a game where it's really uncomfortable in the final minute at some point along the way. And so all these things matter, but I think the SEC this season is going to kind of have a hard time sorting itself out, because there's a lot of these teams. I'm just looking down this list right now.
Well, it's going to be a weird, 8-horse race or something like that.
And if you want to narrow this down to what do they always say, right? Start local.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Tennessee. Look at potential matchups with all of these teams in the field. If Florida plays its very best and has all of its players available, I think Tennessee has a hard time beating Florida here, there, everywhere. I just do. I've seen that matchup a couple times the past couple of years. Something about that matchup. Now, I've also seen Tennessee whip Florida undermanned, but that was in Knoxville, got it going. Florida had a bad day. They got them back that day. But then Florida came back and won the third game. So there's every situation Tennessee's playing Florida, there's matchups I'm super concerned about if I'm Tennessee or if Tennessee fan. But I look at everybody else in that league, and I look at a team that I'm like, that absolutely is a game Tennessee could win or lose, like down the list. And that's all these programs have money. They all have facilities, and there's a lot of guys who say, I would rather start at Mizzou than be the sixth man at Tennessee. I would rather start at LSU than be like the seventh guy off, at Florida. And there's guys who, some of those teams that are like, at Byington, the coach at Vandy, who's just for the second year in a row been really, really good at cobbling together a roster. Mm-hmm. Really, really, really good at assembling a roster of so many new guys, throwing them in a pot, using some alchemy, some voodoo, and then getting something good out of them, knowing what he wants, knowing how they fit. And there's a lot of good coaching in this league, right? And so it's, Texas is going to start being probably a bigger problem in the next couple of years, because say what you will about that guy and his family, they can coach. The Drew family can coach. They're gonna do some things there, and we'll see what happens with Auburn with Stephen Pearl. That's a really tough thing to be as good as your dad was, and it's an awfully cushy assignment for someone's first head coaching job. So we'll see how that lasts. We'll see what's going on with Kentucky, because they're not going to tolerate being mediocre for long. Bama, what's going on there? There's kind of how it is now, and there's a lot. I just see this season having so many different scenarios that I understand it's game to game, and you're kind of living and dying with the results of these things. And you're sort of, that's what being a fan is all about, right? But this year in particular, I'm just saying, guys, no one can make sense of this league yet. Just stay in the fight. You're going to get some blood on you. You're going to get some things that are sore. You're going to lose some guys here and there. Put a Band-Aid on it. Tape it up. Ice it. Stiff upper lip. Go to the next one.
Yep.
And then at the end of it, just see who's standing where. So I would not get overly excited. I would not get overly pessimistic. Now, if one of your star players gets hurt and he's out, okay, yes, that changes things.
Or at least just drop game after game after game.
Sure.
Right?
You have 3 weeks or something, and it's just like bad. It's like,
you get a strong
okay.
streak there, you could probably just go, okay, yeah.
But the results in this league from weekend to midweek to weekend to midweek, from weekend to midweek, have almost no connection with the other. It's hard to find a pattern here. And even home court doesn't always mean what it always did. So I don't know. This is not a season that I would lose track of. You might want to, even if you don't want to, if you want to push it aside a little bit, I would stay tethered to it. I would at least keep a rope tied to it.
Yeah.
Because this season could come back at the right time and be a big season. Yeah. Or it could look great and it could. So I would say, if you're looking for mental health, good mental health, I would maybe set it just a little bit away from your boat, but stay tied to it.
Yeah, so you're pretty much saying in the SEC at the very least, no one's sitting particularly comfortable right now.
No one's
except for maybe like Arkansas.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tennessee has got like a 99.6 or something % chance of making the tournament per the stat cruncher. So going to be in the mix, right? They've had a couple of really big wins, signature wins, a couple of them away from home. That they are going to be in there, and I think if the season started today, I don't think they'd actually be a 6 seed. I think they'd be like a 5 or something like that. So, but again, Lenardi's done this. That this is what he does. So I'm not gonna knock that. But I'm saying that regardless of what happens tonight, and we're going to talk about in the next segment what could happen tonight, because we talked about all the options that are in play for the league this year. There's a lot of options in play just for this game tonight in Athens. And it's unfortunate that we won't be there, but because of the show, obviously, during the day, midweek travel for basketball is just kind of hard to do right now, because kind of got to be in here to do the show. So it's different after a quarter century. I'm getting used to that. But, still covering this. Still going to have everything updated. Still going to be here analyzing it. Still going to do all those things. So in that sense, it hasn't changed. Right now, it's a shorter walk to the bathroom, too, so that's nice. So we're going to come back here in just about a minute. We're going to sit here and discuss this Tennessee-Georgia game tonight, because it's an interesting one, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Be right back.
All right.
Nice.
Sounds like you're near the end of your water cup there.
Getting there. And I got back up here to the left. I'm hoping I don't need to use it, but
right,
because then I'm gonna have to go. Don't want to be doing that.
No.
But really, does it matter that much? Not really. Not really. I'm also been monitoring the Arsenal game as always while this is going.
How's that going?
I believe it's 3-1 to the good guys in the first 39 minutes. So lots of. Although they're playing Kairat Almighty, which is a team from, I believe, Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan. They're not going to have any problem. They're playing their entire second string today and still going to win this game comfortably. So that's not. But anyway, after you lose to Manchester United over the weekend, you want to go out there and score a bunch of goals anyway because you're mad at the world. It's like you're still in first place, but you just lost to Man United, so you're not. Yep. You're not that mad about it, but you're kind of mad about it anyway. But it's like if Tennessee were to be like undefeated tonight, but then lose at Georgia, you don't want to lose to Georgia, but like you're still in first place. So that's how I would sort of relate it, and not like football, because football's different because every game is precious in that way, right? But this is kind of more like basketball in the volume of games and what they mean. So, but you still don't want to lose to Manchester United because that's not, especially at home. That was a bummer of a weekend in that way. We got to talk about Blue Kane too in this one. Old Blue, you're my boy, Blue, you're my boy. Former Knoxville Catholic fighting Irishman, one of the starters over there at Georgia, the guard.
Really? Okay.
And he's got a poke. He's one of those guys who jumps on a trampoline. Looks like he's a high flyer.
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing old Blue tonight too.
All right, about 10 away here.
10 away. How now, Brown Cow? Always wanted to say that on the air.
Well, you did, and you got a few seconds to spare. All right,
here
we go.
Welcome back to 10 at 3 here on this Wednesday, January the 28th, 2026. It's Wes Rucker here alongside Lord of the Streams, Tom Barclay, talking a lot of basketball today because it's basketball season, ladies and gentlemen.
Hard to believe.
Right?
It's actually hard to believe we're almost in February. Actually.
Which means that, softball starts in like a week or two, I think.
Get the Olympics.
And college softball starts super early, right? The Lady Vols usually play in Florida and California and Arizona and places like that early on. But baseball season starts next month too. I mean, it's college baseball does its, and then spring football not long after that. I mean, it is head on a swivel time.
You don't get too much time to sit there and think about the previous season these days.
No, it's
we're
wild.
We're always right back in it.
Nobody does this better than the NFL, though, of making sure that they stay front and center year round.
True.
With different, the OTAs, the scheduling, and the draft being when it is, and the start of camp when it is, and off-season things. And, they are very, very good at keeping themselves at least on the front page. Maybe not above the fold, but on the front page year round.
Yep.
NFL is very, very good at that. That PR machine that puts other PR machines to shame. The way they do, the way they've kind of conquered this land is impressive. You gotta kind of tip your cap to it. You're like, all right, I see what y'all have done there. We are talking basketball today, though. Tennessee goes down to Stegman Coliseum, the Stegosaurus, down there in the classic city of Athens, Georgia. That lovely campus down there. A big, big game tonight for both of those teams. And I'm sure by now, if you're watching or listening to the show, you probably know the connection by now. But Georgia's coached by Mike White, whose brother is Tennessee Athletic Director Danny White. And so there's always that kind of family feel to this game, which is brothers competing against each other. I can relate. I would never want to lose to my brother in anything, ever, for any reason. You just can't. The brotherly frenemy rivalry is a strong one. It's a very, very strong one. But this is a big game. And I'll tell you what, we talk about styles making fights, right? Here is something for Tennessee in this game tonight that I would put, there's levels of concerns. This is like a super big concern. This is one that for me anyway is, number one on the board. Couple of matchup things tonight that are on paper, I think, make you worried if you're Tennessee. And that's that Georgia is number one nationally in fast break points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Number one nationally in free throws made and attempted per game. Number one nationally in field goal percentage on dunks. 19.7% of their field goals are dunks. Now, what that tells me is that Georgia likes to get out and run, likes to attack the rim a lot, and is very good at drawing contact and getting to the line. And if I'm Rick Barnes and I'm Tennessee, That is an astronomical concern for me going into this game. Because we have seen this Tennessee team commit a lot of fouls. Rick Barnes and his teams are always super physical. They're usually pretty decent at defending hard without fouling. Because if you let the opponent go to the free throw line the whole game, you're not going to have annually one of the top 5 or top 10 defenses in the country because you're going to be giving up so many free buckets, right? Yeah. And that usually means some of your best players are in foul trouble too. It's just it's not sustainable. But this season, it's kind of been hit or miss. There have been games where Tennessee has fouled way too much. And when you're on the road, it's not that you should expect a bad whistle, but you should expect at least a slightly unfair whistle. And that's – now you could have a game where, like, if Teddy Valentine's calling the game, for instance, you know, I think Teddy sometimes likes to give a better whistle to the visitors because he likes getting booed. But then there are other guys, and Doug Shows is certainly one of those, that just seems like the home team kind of gets pretty good calls, pretty good whistle for the most part when he's in the building. And the way Tennessee plays puts a lot of stress on the officials, and that can never be ignored or discounted. Tennessee plays up in your face for the point guard for 94 feet, for everybody else for 47 feet.
So you're saying they're just not making it easy to,
No, and now they push the line, and Rick's on the competition committee, or has been. Mm-hmm. He's so good at this stuff technically. So he knows for the most part how to teach his guys. It's like Saban or Kirby Smart with defensive backs in football. Mm-hmm. They know where the line is. Yep. They know where to stop. And they know also how to play the percentages of where you can usually get away with a foul and where you can't. Because you see during a game, there's times where I will think a call, I wasn't so sure about it, but Rick will immediately go to one of his guys and yell at them and not the official, because he's saying, I know it's a tough call, but you did that's on you. And then there's times where he thinks it's the player's in no wrong, and he lets the official have it, right? There's a great picture up on social media yesterday of him being like, I can't even look at you, Doug. He was covering his face with Doug Shows talking to him. So all these things are out there. But when I see that Georgia loves to attack the rim, and I see that they're very good at getting to the free throw line, and I see that they're number 1 nationally also in steals per game, when you're a Tennessee team, what happens usually when Tennessee's losing? Well, Wesley, have fewer points than the opponent. Yes, that's number 1 on the list. Tennessee loses 100% of the time when the opponent ends a game with more points than Tennessee. Smart, Alex. I see you out there. But this team gets in trouble when it turns the ball over, which it sometimes does at a prolific rate, and sometimes it fouls too much, occasionally at a prolific rate. And so when I look at that and I see that Tennessee puts pressure on the opponent or puts pressure on the official to call games a certain way, and if this is a game where they're a little bit over that line and they're committing a lot of fouls and they're turning it over, they're going to lose. If those things happen tonight, they are going to lose. Full stop. Period. Dot. End of sentence. Not a winnable game if that combination of things happen. If Tennessee fouls too much, either because they fouled too much or get a bad whistle, and if Tennessee turns it over too much, that is a loss. Now you're saying, Wes, all these things about Georgia, why are they not ranked in the top 25? Why are they just outside the poll? Why are they, I believe if I've got this right, and this was as of yesterday, so it could have been updated, but right now, for yesterday for Ken Palm, they were 33 overall nationally in terms of metrics, with the number 41 offense and number 46 defense in the country. That's a good basketball team. Those are good numbers. Remember, there's not 112 of these teams or 120 like in FCS or FBS football. There's 350-something. So if you're top 50 in both of those things, top 46, you're a solid basketball team. You're a good basketball team. Mike White's a good basketball coach. But if you want to play the way Georgia plays, you're going to be giving up other things. To wit, Georgia's not great on the glass. Tennessee, very, very, very good on the glass. Tennessee, the first shot defense and usually cleaning up the glass and creating second chance points offensively, they're near the top in all those things. Georgia, for perspective on this, I think the rebound margin for Georgia is about +2 per game. For Tennessee, it's like +20. Like, it's crazy. It's not even close to the same thing. So Georgia, it's not always this simple, but when you like to get out and run, you're usually going to be a little smaller. And if you're Tennessee and you play those the way they play, you're usually going to have a pretty good sized front line, either height or width or both. And Tennessee goes in the starting lineup 6'10", 6'11", 6'11", and then brings, I believe, 6'10" or 6'9", and then 6'8" and wide, in Jalen Carey's case, off the bench. They physically assault you in the paint. They are just bigger than you. And so they create problems for you, even without Cade Phillips, who would have given him another big body in there, athletic body, springy body. But there's matchups like in this game where Tennessee will have Nate Amen at the 3 at 6'10", 6'11", whatever he is, and Georgia might have somebody 6'4" there. And so if Amen can guard that guy, that's a huge advantage, because I can tell you right now that guy at 6'4" or whatever ain't guarding Nate Amen. Nate Amen's going to back him down, turn around, and shoot over him. So unless the ball gets stripped when the ball's down low, Amen's going to do what he did a lot against Alabama. I'm going to back you down a little bit, or I'm going to pull up and shoot over you. Or I'm going to try to go through you, and I'm going to go over you, and your feet are moving, so I'm getting to the free throw line for 2 or 1, depending on if I make the shot, because I'm getting fouled and I'm getting a shot off. But if Amen can't guard that guy on the other end, that's a huge advantage for Georgia, because they're going to be getting around you. They're going to be dribble driving past you, which means you're going to have to overhelp on defense, which means that you might have Felix Okpara dragging away from the rim a little bit, not being able to hover near the rim to erase other people's mistakes. That's how, when you talk about rotations on defense, that's what happens. One guy gets beat, either up top or on the wing, and so somebody else has to come over from the paint to help, or from the corner to help. And what happens when that happens? You get in a situation where this guy's getting an uncontested layup, or he's kicking inside, just handing off inside for a dunk. You know, that little shuffle pass that they do from one side of the paint to the other for a lob dunk on the other side, or kicking it out to the corner for an open 3. And Tennessee gives up a lot of corner threes. If you can make a 3 from the corner, you can score on Tennessee if you can make the corner 3. Because the way Tennessee plays, it's hard to get the ball there, but if you can dribble past somebody, then you're giving up, because they're going to have to help, and you're not going to want to give up the dunk. So who comes in? The guy from the corner. Kick it out to the corner, open 3. Now, when you have Jemai Mashak and Zakai Ziegler out there, you're not getting blown by very often. Those guys were they were almost always right there up in your business, smelling your breath. Chew gum, hopefully, because they can smell it. Or don't, actually, because you don't want them comfortable. But now, Boswell's pretty darn good defensively, but he also still fouls too much sometimes. And he doesn't need to consistently put Barnes in the position he was in the other night, where Barnes had to put him back out there on the floor with 2 fouls in the first half, because Barnes doesn't like doing that, and sometimes he won't. And Tennessee needs Boswell on the floor, because he's kind of a glue guy. He kind of the rug that ties the room together on the 2 sides. And so when Gillespie and Boswell are staying on the floor, and Gillespie's having one of his better defensive nights, and Ament can stay in front of the 3 or keep the 3 in front of him, then everything else works the way it should, because Tennessee can erase the shots. Tennessee can get, they can apply pressure. They can make it hard on you. If those guys up top are getting blown by, or Amari Evans is also very good at this. This is why you can tell by Rick. Watch him on defense. You can see why Rick loves this kid. So when you get blown by up top, it throws off all the rotations, and that corner 3. If you got a guy who can hit it, you can give Tennessee all kinds of problems. And you wonder why? Pearl teams could beat Barnes teams quite a bit back in the day at times because they usually had guys who could hit corner threes. And so that was a problem for Barnes because the way they play defense is just where one of the holes is. There's not many. That's one of them. So if Tennessee can defend well without fouling and Tennessee cannot turn the ball over, Tennessee can go down there and win this game. Maybe somewhat comfortably, maybe. If any of those things don't happen, it's a problem. If all those bad things happen, 100% loss, 100%. But what happens in life usually is it's a combination of those things. It's very rarely going to be the very best that can be or very worst that can be. So some of these things that can't happen are probably going to happen, but some of them Tennessee will do a good job of. And so then it comes down to who's making shots, who's getting 50-50 balls, who's getting the loose balls. That's what it comes down to, which is why, for me, this is one of the more interesting games on the calendar this year because of the styles and the fights and the way those things go. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a good game. We're going to have lots of recap of it tomorrow. Obviously, we'll get you ready for the Lady Vols big game tomorrow as well. We'll see what's going on with football. If there's any more portal, which there may not be, but you never know. Never say never. We'll look at all that. There's a lot going on in sports, and we're going to get to all of it. But for now, we're going to step away. We're going to get out of here. We're getting out of here now. We're getting out of here in a minute. What are we doing?
We're getting out of here.
Then we're going to get out of here.
Well, actually, no.
So
we got a few minutes. We got a few more seconds. You want to take a look at Athens real quick?
Yeah, what's going on down there?
Let's go take a look at Athens here.
What's going on in the Classic City?
We got like 30 seconds here to do this. Come on, let's go.
Load it, load it, load it.
All right, we are looking. Oh, there we are. That's a minute.
There's the Classic City of Athens,
there it
Georgia.
Is.
You can see. Is Michael Stipe down there? I can see him. No,
All
just
right.
kidding. Michael
All right,
Stipe's
now
not
we
down
gotta-
there. Now we'll get out of here, guys. We'll be back in about 23 hours, and we'll have a lot for you then. 23 hours.